I think let's go ahead and get started. We'll keep an eye on that waiting room for our other attendees. And I am going to go ahead and just do a quick little introduction of Laura. Laura and I got connected through Brandy Bickle and just started talking and learned we have a lot of other mutual connections and a former kind of MBA, financial services life. So we got to talking and thought this would be a great opportunity. Georgia Fintech Academy is doing really wonderful things for the state and just to see how credit unions could partner to continue to be leaders in this space. So quick little introduction of Laura. Laura Gibson Lamoth is an accomplished technology and operations executive with over 18 years of experience in banking, finance, and financial technology industries. She is the executive director of the Georgia Fintech Academy, which is a talent development collaboration between the University System of Georgia, Georgia State Universities, J. Mack Robinson College of Business, and all USG institutions. And quick intro, as the executive director of the Georgia Fintech Academy, Laura oversees a comprehensive talent development initiative based at Georgia State University's Robinson College of Business, so definitely in the heart of Atlanta, offering core curriculum offerings accessible to students at 26 USG colleges and universities. It encompasses things such as academic talent development, experiential learning through student projects, job placement assistance, professional development opportunities, and innovation-driven research. A couple quick highlights about the Georgia Fintech Academy. Has made significant strides in educating and preparing students for careers in the financial services industry. And more than 5,500 students from the university system have benefited from the Academy's programs, and over 1,800 students have been placed in financial services jobs. So a lot of good things going on, extremely, extremely high level. I know Laura's going to get into even more about what the Fintech Academy is doing. And when we got to talking, we just got really excited. And then we were just chatting and thought it would be a really cool opportunity to see where credit unions could just be partners as we continue to see, emerging fintechs across Atlanta and the state. And we have credit unions all over in every single community, and see where we might be able to partner. So I will turn it over to Laura.
Thank you so much, Sydney. It's so funny. As soon as you said 18 years, I'm like, man, I hope when people see my face in these conversations, you're like, oh, she looks so young for her age. But I'm like, the years go by so fast. And as I was explaining to Sydney when we had our first conversation, I've been blessed to have this opportunity to transition into a role where I can make a meaningful impact. This is a passion project for myself. I am now a year into the role. So my predecessor, Tommy Marshall, had moved on or transitioned out of this role this time last year, essentially. And I have to date been engaging multiple universities, have interacted with thousands of students, and this has proven to be such a rewarding opportunity for myself, but then being able to see the impacts that we're able to make directly and indirectly to the students that are in the state of Georgia. So I'm going to go into some details around the program construct. I'm hoping we can have some interactive dialogue because I think outside of the general overview of the academy and the program and the multiple tenets within the program, there's a real opportunity to identify a pattern that we can apply across the entities within your organization. And I think kind of specifically looking at the geography and the breakup of Georgia and how far spread these universities and our partnerships are, we can develop that pattern together. So hopefully you guys can see my screen while I've been talking. I'm displaying it, hopefully, the intro slide for the Academy.
Laura, I don't think we have your slides yet.
Oh, no. Okay.
We do see your lovely face and your lovely background. There we go.
Oh, perfect. Well, I got to go back to the first slide because you guys have to see these beautiful slides. Let me see if I get back to presentation mode here. Here we go. Here we go. So what is the Georgia FinTech Academy? As Sydney nicely highlighted, we are a diversity talent development initiative within the state of Georgia. Aligned to the university system, we support all 26 institutions underneath that purview. We also work with over 200 plus FinTech companies in the Atlanta and broader Georgia ecosystem, and bringing the two pieces together really helps cultivate the talent that the workforce demands. And we're able to do that through partnerships across the board. And I'll highlight the 4 pillars of the academy and how we execute that. But I just wanted to make sure you guys got a visual of how we're connecting the two pieces together, bringing the industry into the conversation on how we develop the talent of the future coming out of the university relationships that we do have. One interesting stat, there's over 350,000 students that are attending these universities within the university system. And we penetrate each of those universities by having almost a satellite operations for the academy. We provide a number of resources that I'll highlight in the next slide to these universities. As Sydney mentioned earlier, I am based on Georgia State University's campus, but essentially everything we do is multi-institutional. We were having a chit chat earlier before starting this call around the pandemic and the virtual component. As any company has had some challenges in post-pandemic, bringing people back into the office and engaging with people, human to human interaction. We've been striving to do the same with our students by offering at least a hybrid component of what we do, which offers the accessibility across the university system. So that engagement is key for us. And I have some amazing stats to share, a little bit of trued up stats from the bio that I shared with Sydney around the results from this year. As far as our core offering, so what do we offer? We have a 4-credit curriculum, and this is one thing that I get really excited about. I think many of you guys are familiar with the term banking as a service. We offer curriculum as a service. So we have 42 FinTech related courses that span info security, cybersecurity, data science, data analytics, machine learning, artificial intelligence, and the foundational courses around processing, payments processing, all that has been built over the past 2 years. And now we've accumulated a very robust curriculum. Each university is able to tap into and access that curriculum via a tool called eCampus, which offers a asynchronous style format where we're able to not only teach the student at the campus that they are currently enrolled in, but students from other universities can tap into the course from that same professor. So all the universities that I was speaking about earlier, the 26, we really have 23 of them that are currently connected with that curriculum service. But essentially, each university has built their own degree out of the curriculum that we offer. So depending on the university you attend, you can major or minor in FinTech. We have majority of our students that fit that model. But we also launched with Kennesaw State University the past year a master's in FinTech as well. So we have a variety of areas for students to engage with FinTech. The other piece is career advancement. So we've taken a consultative approach in how we are helping to facilitate the placement opportunities. So working with our students to identify alignment with certain courses, advising and providing that insight into industry trends and what the market looks like. We have been successful in placing our students by hosting a number of career fairs and events with recruiters. So the networking and the exposure gives them opportunities. But I think what really differentiates our program from others is that we work hand in hand with a lot of the organizations that we partner with to do a talent acquisition strategy type session where we're actually identifying the types of roles, and then going back into the variety of students and talent that we have to really play matchmaker and align them appropriately, but then also share those insights with more early on students in their journey so that they can understand what pathways they have into the industry. From an events and career fairs perspective, we do a lot, which I'll show a calendar. To date, we've had, I believe, over 28 different events. We've done about 6 career fairs. We scaled back a little bit. I think the prior year we had 9, but we're constantly looking for to create venues for students to hear from industry leaders on a variety of different topics, some related to the curriculum. For example, emerging trends. We had last week embedded payments, to, DE&I we have tonight. So the variety of the type of topics that we put in front of our students always have the anchor of fintech, but they're a broad variety to give students a personal and professional feel of the industry. And then we also do the career fairs, which we do virtually on Handshake. We have on average 300 to 400 students join each of these career fairs. And Handshake is a virtual tool where we're able to access and connect with students across the state of Georgia in one event. So a lot of our partners are able to get resume books, engage with talent, prior to, and then connect with them during the event that's held virtually. So we provide that accessibility across the state of Georgia. The last piece is near and dear to my heart, and this is one where we're continuing to grow and develop what this could look like in the future. I'll tell you current state, what we're doing is bringing real world business challenges into the classroom. So aligned to our curriculum that I kind of just gleamed over the variety of disciplines that are being taught in these courses, we're aligning specific real world scenarios, and sometimes even data sets when we have the luxury of having access to them, anonymized data sets, I might add, into the class. And students are working alongside with mentors from those companies to perform a 6 to 8 week project as part of that coursework. That's an extremely valuable experience for a lot of these students. It's almost as significant as an internship to have on your resume you've worked with X company on a specific project during a term, or maybe even won an award or was recognized. We have had students that are even on patents or co-patents with some of the opportunities they've had from a project perspective previously coming out of our curriculum. The future state of this is to evolve it into where we're incubating student ideas and concepts. And that is the dream, is to take it to that level where we can now combine the academic research and the discipline that we have. We have a very strong faculty set, 17 professors across the university system currently, and we're always looking to grow and develop from that perspective. But then we have all of the students, which are brilliant, bringing the two pieces together, incubating ideas, being able to help contribute to the evolution of the industry is where we're looking to continue to grow and evolve that particular pillar and offering for the Academy. So this is where I brag. This is my favorite slide, the next 2 slides. This is like the full year 2023 data of what we've had from an engagement perspective. So we've had out of our courses, and I mentioned the 23 of the 26 universities that are currently on board and taking our courses. We continue to feed into each university and market essentially, because I think one of the things that we've been challenged with is how do we grow the pipeline of that's coming into the Academy to develop a pipeline that's going into the industry. And so exposure, meeting students at the freshman level, sophomore level has really been our focus. And this number is pretty significant. We have on average 800 students that will join between the spring and fall semester, a little bit lighter in the summer. But this is a strong representation of the students that we have engaging with us from a curriculum perspective. But that being said, the events that I mentioned to you, which is the fun stuff, the conversations that we're having, the speaker series that we're having, all of the networking opportunities that we create. We've had just, shy of 2,500 students engaging with us this year just on those activities and those events. And this is where we're always looking for support. We need, leaders like yourself in the organizations that you represent to really provide a couple of things. Visibility into the opportunities that exist within the industry. So I think a lot of students that we have coming in, and you might have noticed when I briefly mentioned some of the curriculum that we have, they tend to be more technically focused. And many of you are aware there's a broad variety of roles and functions that exist within this industry. And so to provide that visibility and that insight, these events are extremely meaningful. And then also the fact that, you have a professor who is instructing a course, but to hear from someone who is coming from the industry and is currently, experiencing what the market has to offer, those conversations are just so much more meaningful. From a project perspective, we've had more than this, but this is just what I have data to access. One of the things that I find interesting coming from the industry into academia, and not to talk bad about academia, but they're just a little bit behind the times in regards to data gathering, data collection. A lot of what we have to do is very manual, but we're able to, at least from a curriculum perspective in our events, control the type of data that we're getting. The project work, what we do is essentially be the connector. I'm introducing people from the industry to different universities, sometimes based on their location and what makes sense, sometimes not if there's a virtual requirement for that particular project. We bring those problem statements, they facilitate within their partnership with the faculty and execute those projects with the students. And so we've had companies come to the table this year with an interest in maybe not a problem statement, or maybe needing a little bit more guidance and assistance in deriving what that outline could look like. And so we've been really effective at playing that role to take the volunteer and organization and help develop what that project could look like. And I'm going to go on in a later slide on what that high level workflow looks like. From a career fairs perspective, as I mentioned earlier, Handshake, we're leveraging 1,800 students this year have participated, 43 employers. And the employers, the companies are all over the place. When we talk about Fintech, I think one thing that I should caveat is Fintech from the broadest sense. So financial technology in its core elements and all of the players that exist within that ecosystem. And so when you see our list, I have a slide that highlights the folks that are currently sponsoring our organization, and then the ones that we're engaging with. There's a variety of fintechs, those that are, banks, big banks, smaller banks, fintech in the purest sense, startups, and more mature organizations. But we've been playing in the space of coordinating these opportunities through them all. Podcast. I inherited a podcast, never thought in my life I would like to do a podcast, but the students love it. We actually bring our students into the conversation with an industry leader on a specific topic. And so it's a three-way interview podcast. And we've had 13,000 streams in the past 2 years since we stood up this podcast. So we're always looking for volunteers for that as well. Engagement by the numbers. So to date, we've had over 6,000 students that have come through the program. In that model of graduating students, we have almost a 50-50 split when it comes to males and females. And this is an interesting stat for me coming into this role. We've been really trying to strategically identify a way to focus on diversity and then diversity through placement. And we're seeing a lot of effective results by the content that we're pushing, the exposure that we're providing into the opportunities in fintech. And from a diversity perspective, 72% underrepresented. Somewhat purely just based on where we're located. We have a very diverse landscape naturally, but we continue to drive, DEI themes through the program itself and how it's structured. Another piece of diversity that people don't necessarily appreciate is the fact that majority of our students, especially at these USG, University System of Georgia institutions, are in-state students, and they want to work for a company in-state. They want to stay close to home sometimes, and they're looking for opportunities here. And I have conversations with people. We've surveyed our students as well, and they've echoed the same sentiment about, ideally they would like to work here in the state of Georgia. When I talk to a lot of external folks who are in the recruiting space, they're always challenged by our students looking for the next Facebook or Google opportunity. Some of these students, that doesn't necessarily resonate with them anymore, not with this generation. They're looking for companies where they can be challenged, where they can see potential and opportunity for growth, where they have some visibility as well. And so I think that's a shift in thinking in the past, 5 years to now, where we're actually seeing a lot of students who are very assertively looking for those opportunities here locally. Another aspect to diversity is the types of students that we have from a major's perspective, or I should say academic discipline. As you can see here, there are a variety of students. I actually was meeting with some students. We have a student organization at Kennesaw State, which is specifically focused on fintech, and we have marketing students as part of that organization. And they were like, Laura, can we get some marketing executives from fintech to come speak? And I'm like, it's another lane to care for, but we have such a diverse group of students that are interested in a specific niche, but have a variety of backgrounds and interests and disciplinary focuses. This is an example. This is our fall calendar. As you can see, we've been busy. We have an event. Typically, we do 2 events each night, or two events each week of each semester, if that makes sense. So fall and spring are traditionally look like this. Summer is a little bit lighter. We might have a few sprinkled here and there. But what we have shifted from 2022 to 2023 to do is have more opportunities where we're getting students into the industry. And so specifically here, TAG, Technology Association of Georgia, and Fintech South, we were able to take 40 students to that conference. And all of those students were seniors or graduating MBA students. We also took students to Paytech Women, which had a conference here of 600 attendees. And there was even a couple of interviews that came out of that conference attendance. And then the rest are opportunities where we've had guest speakers from these logos, these organizations come in and speak and interact with our students. So we have a website, which you can find, georgiafintechacademy.org. I'll share these slides with Sydney as well, so you have this to reference. Our site is pretty much the hub for getting all of the information. From a student perspective, we provide assets and content specifically around enrolling in our courses. We're continuing to define or I should say, we're continuing to elaborate on how we define fintech and how we describe it to students. Our relationship all the way down at the secondary level through the Department of Education is critical for us to not only influence students that are taking some courses at the senior level in high school, dual enrollment, they're taking 4-credit courses as early as that level, but then also just to provide them visibility and insight into fintech and the opportunities in fintech. And so we do that socialization through our site. We also have a couple of resources out here around the jobs. We post, here's the job site. We post all of the job postings for our partners out here for students to interact with. I think taking this a step further for us is playing that matchmaker where we're almost instinctively being able to identify opportunities for the students and lead them, direct them to the right place through our site. And this is really where we're effectively getting a lot of traction. I think the last stats that I saw, we had over 2,500 click-through clicks on our site in the past quarter. So this is an example of our student project format. So what I mentioned earlier, the experiential learning element, the real world projects that we bring to the table for our professors to integrate into their curriculum, is formatted through this high level flow. So we essentially work to develop a problem statement. We form a team. We divide the students into groups. We have mentors and representation from the organization. And it's as minimal as maybe a half an hour twice a month, or whatever is agreed upon between the faculty and the sponsoring company. And then at the end, there's a presentation. And some presentations are facilitated, I say, hackathon style, where it's a competition because everybody loves a competition. Everybody loves to be a winner. And so some of these students are extremely impressive. I got an opportunity in the spring to go to UGA, and they were in suits and they were presenting almost like Shark Tank style. Like they had their presentation just nailed down and delivered, excellently. So this is a view of our current sponsors and who we work with. We have sponsors with multiple tiers, and we have community partners as well. This is a view of just the companies that we have been working with in the past semester, the fall semester. There's actually a few missing on here that you might have seen on the event slide, but here's some logos of folks that we work very closely with. And then, as I mentioned earlier, we do have a site on premise at 55 Park Place. We have an amazing facility on the first floor at 55 Park Place on Georgia State in the Robinson designated building. We have capacity to support over 100 in our conference room space. And then we have other small breakout rooms external from that as well. And so we're always continuing to look to provide more on-site / hybrid opportunities, leveraging our facility. All right. And so I think this is what the shameless plug I always say at the end, like I'm always looking for everything. If you have jobs, if you have internships, I want them. If you want to speak or volunteer some of your time, I would love to take that. And then also we have the podcast as well. So not just the speaker series, the podcast, in person or virtual. We're very flexible. And then hackathons, I just mentioned them as hackathons, but the projects, hackathons, we're always looking for partners that want to facilitate some meaningful projects. And I love to say it's free labor. It's a pro bono work with some amazing students that are just eager to get the opportunity, the exposure, the experience to add to their resume. It's a win-win on both sides. And so we're always looking for those opportunities. So I know I said a lot. I don't know if anyone has any questions, any thoughts based on everything that I just dumped on you guys in the past 20 minutes. But anything that you guys might have?
So obviously Valdosta State was on your list. Can you talk a little bit about what you guys, I mean, I know some of these vary, right? It may be an instructor that you're engaged with, but can you talk a little bit about specifically what you're doing with them?
Yes. So Valdosta State has one of the more recent universities, I think in the past year, they have started to unlock the curriculum. They've been on board since the beginning as far as the program is concerned. I can't name offhand the main point of contact that we have. We have a curriculum committee which consists of around 80 some advisors, professors, deans from the various universities, and I interact with that distribution quite regularly. But Vedasta is one of those universities that we definitely have an opportunity to really get into the student body through socialization. And we're launching a student org effort. And Vedasta is on my list because one of the 6 universities, or I should say one of the 6 universities that have stood up and volunteered to help facilitate these student orgs was Vedasta. And so they're on my radar for 2024 to get down there, because unfortunately, I feel like it doesn't, things don't take as much traction unless you build a in-person relationship.
Sure.
I've learned that, like, coming into this academic space, you know, from an industry perspective, I've been in a sales role. I've been in a product, you know, development role. I've done a lot of execution of what I need to do virtually because everything has been decentralized, even cross, you know, internationally. And so I'm used to that. But in the academic setting, things work a little bit slower and I have to nurture and cultivate relationships. And I think Vedasta is one of those opportunities. Unfortunately, with my predecessor, it wasn't necessarily a priority because of the size of the institution, which I now know makes sense. For him, the focus was get some big wins, get some traction, and then everyone else will buy into the model because now we have a proven, evidenced model that works. And so what I've been doing this past year, transitioning into this role, has been just evangelizing on behalf of what we've done and getting university engagement, universities on board at the president, and then dean of the business school specifically, on board. And with Vedasta, I think there's definitely opportunities there. So I can do some research, Heath, and if you don't mind specifically.
Yeah, I'll send you an email separately. But we did bring on a guy that graduated right out of college, and part of what we did is put him on a 3-month rotation where he's learning different parts of the business for a year, and then after that, obviously, he may or may not stay, but that was kind of our commitment, and we just brought on a young gentleman that is a college student that to work part time. But we also, you know, I know a couple of folks over there was going to reach out in regards to internships, but maybe I'll funnel that through you. At least you and I can chat a little bit, and I'll shoot you a note on that. But it's close enough, and it makes sense for us. So
Yeah, definitely. I like one of the things that you mentioned, rotational programs. So we've been trying to inspire others to do the same. Um, I don't have the data yet to prove this out, but I do know I've had, let's say, consultative conversations with students that have already been maybe a year, 2 years graduating from the academy in the workforce. And they have this like buyer's remorse kind of feeling, right? Like they don't necessarily, they got a job, they're so excited, they don't even care, they just got a job. This is what all that work was, you know, the past 4 years, and then graduating to get to this job. But it wasn't what they thought it would be. They interested in something else because they have a friend that's in a different part of the organization. And I'm like, these rotational programs provide so much exposure upfront in that process. The student doesn't know what to expect. Sometimes in an internship, the internship model looks completely different than what they would have to do in the real world performing for a company. And so I think rotational programs are where it's at from a future perspective, and being able to provide that student with exposure into a variety of different opportunities within that organization. And I think that's also how you keep them at your organization as well.
well, it does, and you know, for us, look, there's a different dynamic of folks coming out with the type of soft skills that they may or may not have, and then also we're able to clearly define over a year where their skill set is and where they would fit in well. So it's been a good learning experience for us as well as for him. So the last 8, 9 months. So
Um, Thanks for that, Heath.
yep.
Anybody else?
Keith, did you come off mute?
I'm off mute.
Can we sign you up for the podcast?
As a what do you mean? As a like a speaker?
I'm just
He has a podcast voice. I can hear it.
Sure. Well, I don't know about that. Now I'll give you a little. I have a very southern accent, and get joked with it about a little bit. I play tennis and pickleball, and I was at pickleball one day, and I forget what it was. The ball clipped the net, and whatever. And I was like, "Let," and one of the ladies started going, "Let," and I was like, "Oh my gosh."
That was wrong of her, first of all.
Well, now she says it all the time. So let. But sure, if I'm available.
well,
I do have one question, Laura, and this is going to be a little stupid or whatever, but in your thing here, the internship opportunities, obviously Heath's taken advantage of that. So if we wanted to try to find a student to come in and do like a little internship with us, like on maybe ways to find younger Methodists / whatever, and help us with some business development stuff like that, is that something that this could help us with?
Yes, exactly.
Because we would be very interested, I think, in I think that's something we've talked about and we just haven't done it. And this looks like this might give us that an easier opportunity to get in, jump into that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think one of the things that we would focus on is, building or defining those requirements, with you, or being able to concisely package what that would look like. We have obviously a very extensive distribution, and we can create, a resume book or align you with a specific career fair if you want to do kind of just live initial interview like format discussions. But there's multiple ways to execute what you're talking about, and large or small, we do it all. Like I've been working with especially centrally located in Atlanta, some startups that are, they're less mature. So some of them have never facilitated an internship before. And so we're providing the guidance, leveraging the resources that we've been collecting from all of the other large scale institutions like a Visa or a FIS, and kind of sharing insights into how to develop a effective internship. So we've done all of it. And facilitating that connectivity is where we can provide that opportunity for you guys.
Cool. I may email you on that and get with you.
that's awesome. Anybody else have a question for Laura? Well, I will just say, Laura, I think this is tremendously helpful. I mean, when we started talking about all the good things that the FinTech Academy is doing, I mean, it's endless. These are just absolutely endless opportunities. And one of the things that stuck out to me is you have opportunities for the largest financial institutions, but there's also a pathway for your community financial institutions. And that's what we have here. Of course, the credit unions in Georgia, we've got small, medium, large, and there it just seems like there are opportunities for everyone. And the breadth of your partnerships with the university system really provide for some substantive kind of next steps. And I just think getting the word out is going to be our priority, and looking for other opportunities to plug you into credit unions, but the work you're doing with credit in fintechs, but also how credit union leaders or young executives or young professionals, whatever that is, can get involved in the virtual career fairs, getting on Handshake or serving as a as a panelist, whatever that looks like. We hear from our members all the time. They're looking for talent and good, excited talent. And this just seems like a really, really great positive opportunity that from the LSCU, we would love to see continue to flourish.
Thank you for that, Sydney. One of the things that just popped in my head is, I think providing the education to students and the awareness on what differentiates credit unions in the market as well would be extremely beneficial. I don't think we necessarily cover that in any of the curriculum that we offer. But we've had, some of our community bank folks, you know, come in and speak and they're evangelizing on like why work for a community bank. And I think the same is important from a credit union perspective to talk about the model and the business model and why it's a segment that, that's differentiated from others, from a consumer perspective and then as a business operation as well. And so I think there's an opportunity to educate and then obviously like tie in, like you said, the resources and the connectivity to the program that we already have.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I look forward to talking more. Anything we can do for you, Laura, other than you know, of course, we'll share these slides with our credit, or share this opportunity with credit unions, and then if you're okay with it, we'll get the slides out to our participants today, and we'll be in touch quickly about some other opportunities we've got coming up in Georgia. We'd love to plug you in.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Cindy. That sounds perfect.
Awesome. Well, thank you everybody so much for taking the time. Laura, you're doing great work. Continue to be a leader in this space. Really appreciate all the good things you're doing, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you, Laura.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Okay.